Hello, everyone, and welcome to Come Out with Pride presents A Seat at the Table. This is our monthly chat show where we have a virtual conversation with people from the community to learn more about a particular issue. Today is one, though, that's very relevant for the month that we're in. As you know, June is Pride Month. So today's topic of conversation, of course, is Pride. It's more than a party. So we're going to bring in our great panel of guests. We're going to have a nice casual conversation with them about some of their experiences with Pride, where they see Pride going, where it has been, all of that. And I want to make sure you're invited here to have a seat at our table. So if you're in the chat with us, please ask any questions you have for the panel as we go. We'd love to hear your input. We'd love to answer any questions you have and just have a great time and a great little chat together. So with all that said, I am excited to bring in our panel of guests today. The first person I want to bring in, she is an activist for the LGBTQIA plus community and many other communities from my casual conversation with her that I gathered. This is Roxy Santiago. Hi, Roxy.
Hello, hello. Welcome. Happy Pride Month. Yes.
Happy Pride Month to you. It's nice to have you here and nice to meet you because you and I haven't really known each other in the real world. So very nice to meet you. I'm excited for us to have this conversation today. As we're getting started, I wanted to ask you a question. Do you remember one of the first Prides that you ever went to, and what was it?
New York Pride. I was raised in Harlem, so New York Pride, and it was at the pier, and I was with a couple friends, and they took me to the leather bar that was down there. They were having it, and whew, that was quite a sight. Lots of leather that wasn't all over the body.
Fair enough.
But it was fun. I love spending Pride in New York and being down at the pier. It's so awesome. I also love it here in Orlando.
Absolutely.
But that was definitely my awesome experience. I love those guys that taught me a little bit more about Pride.
I love that. And, again, proof right at the beginning that Pride takes all kinds of forms and they're all valid and all important. So I love that. The next person I want to bring in, he is a business owner. You might know him as the owner of Embellish Effects, your number one spot for all your makeup and costuming needs here in Orlando, but also people locally know him probably best as the Ribbon Maker. This is Ben Johansson. Hi, Ben.
Hey, how are you, Rob?
I'm good. How are you? It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Happy Pride, everybody. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride to you. Can you lean closer to I want to see your eyebrows. What's happening here? Oh, they're part of your glasses.
They're part of my glasses. I obviously don't know how to use this computer.
I'm at that age. I love it. Well, it's so good to have you with us, Ben. Do you have a Pride memory that you could share with us before we dive into things tonight?
October 11th, 1994 is the very first day that I came out to anyone, and that was my brother. The Summer Pride 1995, he took me to New York City. I may have danced on the pier with Roxy and not even known, but that was my first experience with Pride. And if you have been to New York City Pride, you know it is quite an experience. It is probably about an 8 to 9 hour long parade.
Oh yeah.
On a small gear. But it was amazing. Very, very colorful. And that's really what I took away from all the colors and all the happy people. And it's just nice to see that when everybody's together.
Yeah, I love that. That's part of why Pride is so special. Well, I look forward to having more conversation with you, but I want to bring in another one of our guests right now. So this next guest, they are a personal trainer, CrossFit guru. I don't know if that's true, the guru part, but that's what I'm saying. This is Nico, everybody. So hi, Nico.
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you today?
Wonderful. It's nice to meet you. I know you and I don't really know each other out there as well. So tell me, what's one of your first Pride memories that you have?
I think one of my first Pride memories would be here in Orlando. Graduated from UCF I guess almost 10 years now ago. But yeah, one of my first memories would be actually going to Pulse and dancing the night away with friends and yeah, just having a good time being around with other queer people and enjoying life at the time.
Yeah, such a special, important moment. I love that. Well, I look forward
Yeah.
to talking more with you today. I'm excited to meet our next guest as well. So this, I don't know much about you, so I can't wait to find out. So I'm going to bring him in here right now. This is Ron Lee. So hi, Ron. How are you?
I'm the history-making member of the group.
I love that.
I've been in New York City since 1966.
Oh, wow.
Columbia University sort of runs in the family, but when our daughter graduated, she's one of the a leading banker on Wall Street now, but started out, one of her first apartments was across from Stonewall on Christopher Street.
Wow.
So we were very much thrown into the community there and participated in New York Pride, which seems to be the theme going on here. And the interesting thing is a friend of mine at the Rolex 24 a few years ago announced that his brother had purchased Stonewall and now owns the bar.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think they just kicked Anheuser-Busch out this year. But but again, the connection with Pride is the New York Pride. But I would have to say the one here in Orlando is a great celebration. It's always such a delight for us. And I have a good friend who's very much involved this year, so that makes it all the better.
Oh, I love that. Well, I can't wait till this year's Pride, but I also can't wait to chat with you more throughout the conversation. And since you're already here, I want to kick off the first question actually to you, because you are an ally. You identify as a straight male, correct?
I do.
Awesome. So as an ally, how do you see your role in the LGBTQ community and in the world of Pride?
Well, you can tell by looking at the screen. I'm 80 years old this coming September, so I have a lot of history. I think I'd have to go back to my experience of being born into an Ohio family, rural Ohio, which you would expect to be very conservative, to a mother who absolutely was an activist in terms of support of African-American members in the community, but also we must have had 30 cousins in this extended family. And one of my cousins went on to be the manager of the big Chrysler dealership, the garage, the mechanical work and everything. Her name was Norma. She never married. And I can remember as a child people saying Norma is different, but it was never said with hatred. It was always said with love. And when the time finally came that I was old enough to understand, my mother said, she is only different in that she has a partner who is a woman, and I don't want you to ever do or say anything that would disparage who Norma is, because some members of the family have done that. And I have no use for them. I will not tolerate anyone in my family being hateful to anyone else. And so I grew up with a strong social activist background. In the 60s, my wife and I, who was a graduate of Columbia, she went to medical school and became a nursing administrator, was active in Public Health District number 5 in Philadelphia. I served in South Philadelphia. It was during the time when there was a great deal of social unrest and riots. There were many people who were very active at that point because of all the issues around what had happened in New York City, Stonewall. And throughout my entire young life and all of my life, what I've experienced again and again is how much some of the best people I've ever known have been so damaged by the hatred they've experienced and the exclusion from their families. So in all of that, I've always tried to make sure that any place where I was in a leadership position worked very hard to make sure that that kind of language, attitude, behavior would not be accepted here. I should probably say, and I know that that I don't want this to be misunderstood, but I spent my whole life as a Lutheran pastor. My last parish had 4,000 members, and when in 2007 we as a church decided to ordain partnered GLBTQ persons in that 4,000 member parish because of who we were, how strongly we were advocates for the GLBT community and the active role we played in the community, we lost one family who had recently joined. but otherwise the congregation simply said, so why not? It's who we are. We're really about affirmation of people. So I would hope, I served as national staff for the Lutheran Church throughout that whole process. The whole thing of economic and social justice was part of my portfolio, and that's who I've been. That's too much information, but you ask, here it is.
Great. What a great background. What a wonderful story too, and so great to hear that as a religious institution, you found that acceptance and didn't run up against too much resistance, which is really important.
And unfortunately, religious institutions have done such hateful and damaging things and continue to do that. And that's hard for many people who have been the brunt of all of that to be able to forgive and forget. And I do understand that. I've sat with a lot of people and heard their stories. So, yeah.
Absolutely. But it's just more reasons why pride is so important, too, for those people who don't feel like they belong anywhere. Pride is their place, right? I would love to bring the rest of our panelists back in because I want to ask a question and just see who feels like jumping in to answer it first. The conversation topic of today is that pride is more than a party. So I think that's an important thing to remember. I also love that pride is a party, but we also, it is more than a party too. So what ways do you guys educate yourself to, about the issues facing the LGBT community that Pride celebrates each year? And why is it so important to you? Who would like to dive in with that one? Was that too deep?
That was very deep.
Very deep.
I'm trying to dig my way out right now.
I'm a very deep thinker, so.
For me, about the whole meaning of pride. It's more about a respect for yourself. It brings me back to the days when I would go to Pride with my brother, who my brother is gay as well. We are only two siblings, and we were blessed to have two gay kids, which is pretty awesome. And I always blame it on him because he's 11 months older than me. So I always say there was a little bit left in mom when I was born. So, but it's more of a respect for yourself, going back to that song from Aretha Franklin, A Deeper Love. It really is a deeper love, and people need to realize what it really is. It comes from within you. You can be a proud friend, you can be a proud family member, but you have to have pride in here too. And that's what I want to bring out in people is have some personal pride. That personal pride will grow. And when people see you have so much pride, then they'll have pride. And it just spreads like a smile, in all honesty. Just keep on making sure people have pride for themselves.
I love that. I like that you were able to both quote Aretha Franklin and tell us that pride spreads like a smile. I mean, what a sentence.
Yes.
Love all of that. That's awesome. What about you, Nico? What do you do to keep yourself, engaged in the world of pride, and why is it so important to you?
I think over the years, the way that I've been engaged with pride and the ongoing issues that are facing the community is, number one, being a part of the community as someone who's trans. Obviously, I pass at very first glance as a cisgender male. And to me, it's even more imperative to, have space for folks like me who have these what people call as passing privileges to have conversations with these straight allies and other folks that talk negatively and down around trans people, and especially like trans women. For me, I just recently moved back to Orlando. I was in North Carolina for the past 5 years. And I think the community that I was at in Durham, I found at the very end of me leaving there. So I found myself engaging in pride there a little differently and mostly focusing on social media to still feel like a part of the community. So that was a little rough, seeing as like I started taking testosterone here and then completely seen as another person there and not really finding that community until the end. Now moving back into recent Orlando resident again as of a month. I can't wait to be downtown in October, and I live right downtown now, so I don't have to drive anywhere. I can walk downtown and be a part of the parade, and it's going to be good. I left the summer Pulse happened, and that was really hard for me as someone who grew up there and really found myself and my identity. So yeah, staying engaged online. I think that's the biggest thing. Tumblr helped me find myself, and I see more and more every day that young people are finding their authentic lives, and it's beautiful to be a part of that. So
awesome. What about you, Roxy?
Well, I was just trying to think. I've always worked Pride at Disney, part of Main Street, the parades. I never saw Pride in Orlando till when I came back from New York, probably after 2002. Mm-hmm. So all this time I lived here, it took that long before I finally got to see a Pride here. So I love the whole fun engagement of everyone. I love seeing the transgender women on the floats, men and women on the floats, because that's what New York, well, that's what it was about. Let's just be free, be whoever you want to be, and just enjoy the music, love each other, hug. I mean, that is what Pride is to me, and it's just beautiful. It's your time where you can let your hair down and be whoever you want and not be judged, but loved.
Oh, I love that. Be whoever you want, not be judged, but loved. So important.
That needs to be on a T-shirt.
And Ron, you've seen many Prides, and
many,
which is amazing. I love that.
Yeah, and I'm reflecting on your question. I think maybe at a different level, and that is what we've tried to do as part of I love to cook, and we love to have people in our homes. We do New Year's Day brunch, and sometimes 100 people show up, and I make omelets. But what we always are very clear to do is to provide plenty of space for our friends who are GLBTQ to come and to be simply accepted. And more than that, after the second glass of wine, to be able to just sit and listen and shut up. I think so many heterosexual people are quick to give their opinions, maybe asked questions that are sometimes pretty, not stupid, but ignorant. And I think what we've tried to always do is simply to provide a listening place. My experience is particularly with younger people who may be estranged from families, or some in their relationships that were dependable and important as they were growing up, that it really is important to have a network of friends where you can simply be yourself, essentially Pride the year round. Pride has an exuberance. And I think it's the one time people can publicly be themselves, that they're afraid to be otherwise at work or around even some of the people in the neighborhood of their friends. So what we try to create is simply a household where people are welcome, a big umbrella of welcome, and good food and a hell of a martini. I guess I'm allowed to say hell.
Yeah. Especially if it's in reference to a martini. We're in.
Totally.
Well, now I know whose house I want to visit when I'm in New York. That's awesome. That kind of leads me into our next question, though, too, which is, what do you tell people who say that we need to have a straight Pride? What do you think? A few years ago that movement started. What do you say to people who have that? Who believe that? Who believe we need a straight Pride?
Sorry, I just had to pick my eyes up and put them back in my head.
Well, Ben, what do you think? What would you say to someone who said there is a need for a straight Pride?
In all honesty, I try not to judge anyone. Y'all want to have a straight Pride, go right ahead. Go get your permits, go set up your beer tent, have yourself a gay old time, okay? It's fine with me. They want to do that, that's fine. I'm not going to judge them, but at the same time, there's really nothing to prove.
Right.
Isn't it called Monday through Friday in the suburbs?
It's called January through May, and then July through December.
For sure. But it is something that does come up. People do mention it. How do you feel about it, Nico? What would you say to someone who said there's a need for us to have a straight pride event?
I would probably slap them. First off.
Yeah.
I don't see what the purpose of that would be, considering that we are indoctrinated every day since birth of what heterosexism looks like, should be like, and that is just force-fed to us from the day. So I would say we celebrate heterosexism every day. So what's the difference of having a month for it? That's like having a white pride month, being met with the same question. Why are we here? We've been having those months for years.
It's White Lives Matter. It's the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. And to me, as someone who's Black and part of the community, it's like I'm going to laugh at you or I'm going to spit at you. It's one of the two. So.
Yeah, I hear that. I say my personal opinion, and as a board member of Pride, I always say the reason why I don't feel that that's something that we need is because if you've ever been to Come Out with Pride Orlando, or really Pride anywhere, they're all are welcome events. So if you're straight, come on down, march with us, be there with us, right? Celebrate the community. Nobody's going, straight people aren't allowed at our Pride events.
Right. Just come and be prideful. Be proud of who you are.
Yeah, I think my first Pride that I ever went to was here in Orlando, but I went with like a car full of straight friends, and I was the one who was like, "Oh, I don't need to go to a parade," and they were like, "No, come, you have to go." They're the ones who dragged me to Pride.
And now you lead parades.
Right now, now this is what we do, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. For sure. So thank you guys for your input on that. Roxy, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, that's awesome. I agree. Straight people come to our Pride all the time, and you know why? Because we have good music.
We can throw a party, honey.
We know how to dance.
It is true. And Roxy, I want to actually send the next question to you, which is, as a Q Latinx lesbian, how important is the visibility of Pride to you?
It's very important because of the younger people that are continuing to come out and be gay, especially now as we have a lot more transgender youths that are coming out, and it's very important for them to see that they're accepted with everyone. It's the young people. We have to do this for the young people. I don't want to be out till 2 a.m, but sometimes, maybe that once a year party, you got to do it because you want to see that we accept, we have fun. It doesn't matter what age you are, just as long as you understand that we're here for each other. And I mean, I have 2 family members that I don't know what took them so long, but they are now joining the gay world. So I'm very proud and happy. And it's, and it's nice, one they're trying to slowly learn to talk to me. And I'm like, take your time. And the other one is finally, said that they were a lesbian. So it's just kind of cool because, I've always been the only one. We're in a Latin family. I never sat at a table with my parents and said I'm gay. The conversation still never happens because us Latins, there's so much macho-ness and family thing that it's very hard for a Latin person to sit at a table with their mom or dad and say, "Hey, I'm gay." It doesn't happen in the Latin world as much. And, anything I can do to help that's important to me.
I love that. And you mentioned the younger people. So how do you explain to them the importance of Pride? How do you bring them in to the world of Pride?
Well, that's funny because I was just talking to my nephew whose birthday, he was turning 12, and he does want to come out as trans, and I was explaining pride. And I was showing him a little bit, some pride videos on YouTube, and and he was saying that, oh, I want to wear a wig. I said, that's great. You're more than welcome to do that. And then I mentioned some like brunch and stuff like that, and I said, I can't wait for you to join us in that. At this time, though, you can, and he asked me, well, why not? I said, because the language is a little too strong for a brunch for a young 12-year-old. But I definitely want you to come to Pride, and I'm so happy that will be joining me for Pride this year. So I can't wait. It'll be his first Pride ever.
Oh, that's so exciting. So exciting. I love that. I want to ask a similar question, though, to Nico as well. As someone who is Black, trans, how is visibility for your culture important to you, and how does
that last part broke up, and how is it what?
Oh, and does Pride support that for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So visibility, I think, once again, I think touching on youth is a great first step. There's so many, I wish there was people when I was young that I could think of, besides watching Silence of the Lambs, of like people who were experiencing gender identity, and questioning that. I think for me, it's important to see folks like myself exist, not only for young people, but people who are also later in life, finding out who they are. I think also too, it comes as a double-edged sword as someone who is Black, and with everything that goes on in the world towards Black men and Black masculinity, it gets a little terrifying sometimes, driving alone by yourself at night and not knowing what about you is going to be found out. And I think that to me is the thing that I have to walk around with every so often. I think Pride could have better conversations about the intersection of race and how it treats Black trans women, for example, and how we can be more supportive of that as a community to those folks. And even I feel like there isn't a lot of Black trans men that are very visible out there, or Latinx people for that matter. So yeah, I think it comes as a double-edged sword. It's like, it's really great for you to see this, and it's starting to become somewhat normalized. But at the same time, it's like these people still experience violence at higher rates for being different, even within our LGBTQIA community. So those are my thoughts.
Totally see that. I totally see that. And I think that, I think as a board member of Pride, I think there's still work that we're really trying to do to make sure that we, for Come Out with Pride Orlando anyway, that we really do connect with those communities and really do share those messages. She's watching along, and I want to give a shout out to our new executive director, Tatiana, whose last name I always mispronounce horribly, so I'm not even going to. But Tatiana is our new executive director. But before she became our executive director, she was running the diversity and inclusion part of our board. And so she's been doing a lot of work to really make sure that happens, and I know she will continue. And I think that's exciting, and I think that's a challenge that we need to take to make sure that we are representing it. And I know that our new executive director is on board, so I'm excited to see where that goes. And I hope I didn't just embarrass her too much by shouting her out. Awesome. Thank you for that. I want to ask a question of Ben right now, though. Ben, it's a little bit of a gear shift, but you were one of our oh my God, the words just came out of my head. But you were a part of our parade a few years ago. Grand Marshal. Why was the words gone from my brain? I don't know. But what was that experience like, being a Grand Marshal for Come Out with Pride?
Probably the most amount of pride that I had ever felt before in my entire life. To be on the back of a Corvette wearing a rainbow cape and a rainbow sash. I mean, I felt like I fell out of a rainbow. the feeling inside, I was giddy. You know, pride to me, the feeling of pride is a mixture of happiness and excitement and love all wrapped up into one feeling. And it was emanating out of every pore of my body. I remember looking back at pictures and I've got this smile on my face the whole time. You know, I was very proud also to have my husband in the front seat of the car with me. Was a very good moment.
Yeah, I love that.
Sorry, I get emotional like when I sneeze. So, did you freeze, Rob? Oh, there you are. I think you got frozen again.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. It's, you know, we have one of those famous Orlando storms rolling.
Yes,
through.
yes.
It's doing
Absolutely.
what internet does.
But no, you know, just the feeling itself was just an overabundance of happiness, love, and excitement all wrapped up into one.
I love that. I love hearing that. And it was a well-deserved Grand Marshal. You know, and part of why you were recognized for that was because of your efforts as the ribbon maker. Can you just give us a little background about how you became the ribbon maker and what, you know, what that means in case anyone watching isn't aware of that?
Well, thank you for wearing the ribbon. I see on your lapel there you have one of the Descent versions, the Descent pin versions, which anyone who buys one of those, 50% of the profits go directly to our center right here in Orlando. The Ribbon Project became the project the day of the Pulse shooting. My husband at the time, Timothy, was the board president of the GLBTQ Center. That happened to me. I was the first lady of the center. And we rushed to the center that morning of the shooting, and Tim was very busy as the president of the board. He was very busy getting people where they needed to be and what they needed to do and coordinating efforts with city officials. And I was finding myself in a place where just give me a second.
You're good. We're here for you.
I was finding myself in a place where I've never been, not knowing what to do. And I called my dad and told my dad that I was okay. I was not at the bar. I was not at the club. That Tim and I were both good. And in a conversation that I had with him, he said, "How are we going to honor them? What are you going to do?" And so I thought to myself, what would Michelle Obama do? What would the best first lady in the whole wide world, what would she do? And she would do something poignant. She would gather her friends together and she would do something. And that's what I had to do. I had to do something. So I ran to the craft store and found a roll of rainbow ribbon. In that same conversation with my dad, my father was a police officer for 30 years. And the respect bar was always added to his badge when I was growing up, anytime a fellow officer was down or killed in action. So I decided to put the black bar on the ribbon as a respect for the 49. And it started with just making a handful just for the volunteers and the employees of the center. And now at over 1.3 million of them made, they are in all 50 states. They are in 65 countries. They are on every continent, every single continent, including Antarctica. And right now, I've got two things that I'm working on. The next thing is to get ribbons into space. To get the 49 up into the stars. And that I'm hoping to hear back this week on a positive message. And secondly, I am getting the youth involved in the project now. I'm sure if you follow me on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, you see that I talk about this young member of our community here in Orlando. His name is Jace, and he is now going to be making the ribbons for the world. He's going to continue on my legacy here. I'm still going to be managing director and helping him out, and I won't leave his side, but that's what I've been doing, is cutting him supplies tonight as I talk to you guys. And he's excited. Today we had a nice big interview with Spectrum News 13 that will be airing on Monday. They're going to do a nice special of Jace learning community. And to me, that's most important, to have the project continue by a member of the youth in our community, because we have to educate our youth and we have to make sure that they pass on things in the next generation. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
I love that. That's beautiful. Quick thing about the pins. We did post the link because someone asked how they get one. We did post the link for the Descent pins, where 50% of those profits go to the center. But also, if someone wants one of the handmade ribbons, where would they go to get one of those?
Absolutely. If someone wants a fabric ribbon, simply send a self-addressed stamped envelope. If you don't live in Orlando, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Orlando Ribbons, Post Office Box 541583, Orlando, Florida 32854. And if you're in Orlando, stop by Embellish. There's always a bowl of ribbons on my counter. They're absolutely free. There is no charge for them. Some people like to leave a donation. Some people bring ribbon in exchange, which is awesome because that helps continue the project even further.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ben. I want to ask a question to Ron right now. We mentioned with Ron earlier that you've seen many different prides over the years. How have you seen pride in general evolve over the years?
I think it's been very much a mirror of the society. The anger of the 60s replaced by a lot of wandering through the 70s and 80s, but I think roles started changing. The feminist movement certainly had a big impact. But as the generations have continued, even with this horrendous right-wing, I'm going to get political, craziness that we've gone through, that now is being concentrated in Florida by a governor who doesn't care what he believes or does as long as it plays to that right-wing crowd, it would appear that we're losing an edge on the acts of justice that we've worked on over all of the years. And in fact, I don't think that's true at all. What I see happening is that more and more, all of the polls show that the majority of Americans have gotten over all of it. Remember way back South Pacific, any of you who enjoy musicals, it's Bloody Mary who sings a song that says you have to be carefully taught. I think what we've seen is that with each generation, as much as the right wing says it's an erosion of morals and they go off on their craziness, what we've really seen as each generation has passed from the 60s when I was the young rebel until now is that finally the polls say Americans are over it. They just don't understand why there is an issue based on people's orientation, that everybody has a right to be married, to have family, that religious groups who want to be stupid about that are simply being hateful under the banner of love. And no matter how they cast it, that's what's going on. You know, in the parish I served, because we had several hundred kids who were involved in going on mission trips for a week, 10 days together, both internationally as well as all over the United States, we would send out about 5 groups of 75 youth each summer. And of course, activities all during the year, in a parish where there were openly gay members of the staff on board. It was a place where if you were struggling with your identity, you would be loved, cared for, supported, and that is worth its weight in gold. It's sort of a theme that I've heard through the evening, and that is that each generation has to struggle with who am I? And for adolescents, it's an extremely difficult journey, no matter whether you're gay or straight or transgendered. But it's harder for those who are ostracized because they are in the minority. The greatest gift we can give, and this probably goes beyond our topic of pride tonight, but the greatest gift any of us can give, no matter what our orientation, is that we have to be accepting of the young among us, affirming, supportive, and because this society attaches sexuality to almost everything, you get into the whole thing of being afraid to talk to kids about what they're going through. But in the right supportive environment, it is so important that each of us try to nurture, to parent, to love, to support, to listen to the young among us who are trying to determine who am I, and to find that I'm not going to be hated for it, but in fact, I'm going to be accepted and loved. And I think that's what many of us have worked with for a lifetime. And I think we're at a point now where our society is not going to allow the hatred to emerge and become the majority again. We simply have moved on from all of that. There are bigger issues to deal with. I'm rambling maybe, but I think that's the theme that, I'm glad a 12-year-old's going to Pride. That's the best thing that could happen.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's great. I want to address a question that was asked a little while ago, just to whoever feels compelled to speak on this. It was mentioned earlier about the corporatization of Pride. Now, obviously, as a board member of Pride, I'm going to stay out of this chat. But somebody asked about sponsors that come in for Pride, and you hear it over the years of should we allow sponsors who have not necessarily demonstrated that they're donating to Pride organizations year-round. How do you feel about the corporatization within Pride and sponsors and dollars that come in from companies that are supporting in Pride?
I'm going to let Roxy take that one.
I think that I understand. Yes, there's these pop-up corporations that say, hey, look at me. I got a rainbow flag. I got a rainbow shirt. Understand. Maybe they don't give to Pride, but we must also look at it as there might be an employee who's gay who can't come out. And to them to know that their corporation is doing this, even though we may not know how they treat them at work, you're still making that person happy. And I think sometimes we just got to look at it different and realize, hey, there might be somebody who works there and you probably just made their day. And maybe they do want to leave that job or maybe they don't, but they at least can have that moment where they can say to themselves, my corporation did it. I can't believe it, So that's where I come from with it.
Yeah, I totally see that because it is part of, the message is support.
Yeah.
I think we live in a world where some people want it to be black or white all the time. And the reality is that corporations fund a lot of activities, but when they come out publicly and say, we are supportive of our GLBTQ employees and the people whose services are supplied by us, are purchased, that in itself creates that climate I was talking about earlier, where gradually the society simply gets on with being accepting and whole. So all money is either tainted or not, depending on the motive behind how it's spent and how it's used. And if you want to spend money on Pride, ATT, great. It's better than messing up my yard with fiber optics with your money.
Awesome. And on that note, I do say, like, today I was in a Barnes & Noble, and I don't know Barnes & Noble's stance, what they've donated to. I don't know their company's history, but I did love, they had a Pride table in the front of the store. And what I was seeing at that table were families standing around it together, looking at the books. And I was like, what a special moment, though, that is. Because, I come from a family that is very liberal. Coming out in my family wasn't quite the challenge that I hear in a lot of families. So I consider myself very lucky and blessed for that. And even still, I could not imagine being 12, 13 years old, standing around a pride table with my mom looking at, the thought of that just even blows my mind. You know what I mean? I could do it now, but I can't imagine doing that at like 12 and 13. So there is something to, making it a mainstream.
What a cool feeling that must be, though, to walk into a bookstore and see a table full of Pride books and be able to walk over to that table with your parent.
Right.
I mean, what an amazing feeling that must be for the kids.
Absolutely.
Whether they're gay or not, whether they're trans or not, just to be able to walk up to that table and not be pulled away from it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you don't want to go over there. You don't need to see that. I mean, supportive. That's the message. Support your kids. Support.
Yeah. And, I think that's, to me personally, that's why Pride is so important, right? It's that world where your support is there, right? It's where you go for at least one day to feel like you are the majority in that day, right? You're in a world where everybody's accepted.
Yeah.
You get to really be you, which is, so important. So that's awesome. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I think the issue is very nuanced. As someone that's a little bit younger and also has some organizing background, and I think that some folks who maybe have some issues with the corporatization of Pride in these months is that we want these same folks to stick up for us when bills like anti-trans legislation is being passed, or like, why are gay people and gay men especially still not able to give blood? And that is like backing that I personally, and I think some other folks would like to see happen from the community throughout the year and not just for 30 days out of the month. The support is there, and that might make someone feel really great that is at work that day, but it's like Roxy said, we don't know what the day-to-day treatment is of that individual, and we can hope that their support throughout this month can only be extended for 12 months out of the year and not just June. It's a very nuanced issue, and I don't think there's a right overall answer. And it's great to see this. Like, it's awesome that there's I can go to the bookstore and read books by people who are like me. To see that every day would be what I think the overall goal that we would all like to see. Right?
Yeah, Pride is 365 days a year, not just 30 days.
Exactly.
It's true.
I think that would be our overarching goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Pride table at Barnes & Noble could be there all the time, right? Why is it got to just be?
I mean, they've got a whole section.
I was about
That is true. That is true.
Why not have a whole table?
Yeah, exactly. That's on feature every month.
Yep.
So.
Very true. So it looks like we may have lost Roxy. There's a lot of still storms blowing through, so hopefully we get her back. But we're coming close towards the end of our time. Oh, there's Roxy. We missed you so much.
We had a storm. Big
Right.
Little Thunder just came by.
I love that Big Little Thunder. It's always nearby. That's going to be my name at Pride this year. Big Little Thunder, everywhere I go. So I want to ask a question though to all of you as we're getting ready to start to wrap up, which is, where do you want to see Pride go from here? Where do you want to see Pride evolve in the future, or how do you want to see Pride evolve and grow? Whether it's here in Central Florida or whether it's nationwide.
It's a great question.
Did I stump you?
You did, yeah, because I mean, I hold Pride deep in my heart, I mean, it's part of who I am. So I don't know if I could be any more Prider, if Prider is a word. I would love to see more education around Pride. You know, like even for Orlando, you know, we have our Pride weekend. Let's do some Pride seminars during Pride weekend to teach the kids, you know, where did Pride come from? You know, we can't leave it up to our friends to, you know, let these kids just grow up and not know our history, because we all have a history in the GLBTQIA plus organization. You know, I would love to see more people talk about where Pride came from, talk about Stonewall, and educate kids that are interested in learning about that sort of thing.
Awesome.
I think just going back to what I was saying before, like it would be a year-round event, right? I think it's very important to have a month out of the year, just like how we do for Black History Month, around Pride. But I think youth are informing themselves at a much faster rate than folks who were my age in their early 30s. So honestly, it would be nice to see those young people leading in the fight for what they want to see as Pride in the years to come. I think myself and folks who are have been experiencing this over time, still we all need education at the end of the day. It's not just young people, in order to better grow our and be supportive of youth, because inevitably they're our future, right? And
Absolutely.
how do we support them as they continue to come up? But like, I'm totally down. Pride is more than a party, right? That's the conversation, and we do need to have more educational pieces that aren't just about like AT&T throwing out rainbow hats and, you know, going and having the best time of our lives later that evening. So yeah, I would also like to see more educational pieces, and I would like to see youth leading more of the forefront as well in that fight.
I think, quite frankly, the ultimate answer is always the one. It's the telos, the end that you never get to. That is, the ideal ending of Pride is for there not to have to be Pride celebrations. That we are all so integrated into society and accepted. You probably have seen some of the Star Trek movies, and finally, Star Trek pictures a future where husbands have husbands, wives have wives, and men and women have romances and are married, but it's presented in a totally judgment-free environment. And ultimately, that's where I would hope we're headed, so that as kids grow up, they know that they can be who they are. Do I think that's going to happen? I don't. I talked about the church earlier. That's one of the negative elements. There are too many Baptists who don't want to be loving. They really want to be judgmental. And religion is the worst place to pass on prejudice. So you can deal with a religious problem. You can go a long way to taking care of how hatred gets passed on. So for me, again, it's that theme of youth that I hear you saying, that the most important thing Pride can ultimately do is, beyond the celebration, you have to be carefully taught, to be responsible for teaching, for sharing, for modeling, for living the life of joy, for husbands to love their husbands publicly and openly, for wives to love their wives, and for the rest of us to do what history has allowed us to do openly.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And if you don't like it, turn your head.
I agree.
Roxy,
I think we should keep Pride and celebrate this every year, because it's something that needs to happen, and we just need to get wild and free and crazy and dance.
Don't get too crazy, girl. You know, you're getting up there in age now.
Might break a hip.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to learn from my 12-year-old how to dance.
You'll end up looking like me, well-weathered. Very much worn.
Are you one of the weather girls?
Oh, yeah. You would believe.
Well, I do have to say too, personally for me, one of the things I want to see more of, and I'm happy to see more of happening here in Orlando, is for the definition of pride to become even more inclusive. I love the newly redesigned pride flags that you see that include, some love and support for the people of color and for the trans community in our communities. And one of the things I'm excited about this year's Come Out with Pride Orlando, which cheap plug on October 9th, everybody, save the date. But is that this year too, we are partnering with the National Trans Visibility March, which is really exciting for all of us at Pride, but hopefully something that is really exciting for the whole community in Orlando, for us to have such a big event, bringing awareness to our trans brothers and sisters and non-binary pals who are joining us. And I think that that's so important. And it's one of the things about this year that I'm so ridiculously excited for. So, and thank you. We put up the link if you want to learn more about the National Trans March. But I'm so excited for that to be a part of our Pride this year. And I think it's a step towards that evolution that we really are excited for. And with that, I really just want to take a moment to thank you all so much for joining us today. I really, only one of you did I really know before today, but I've really enjoyed all of these conversations, and I think they're all important. And our home audience, thank you guys for adding your input as we've gone. Remember that Pride is a state of mind, and like Ben said, we should spread it like a smile. Any closing thoughts from any of you?
Either spread it like a smile or spread it like peanut butter, honey.
Now I have the RuPaul song in my head. Thank you.
I
don't think I can play it because we probably don't have rights for it, but I love it.
Just keep it going.
Thank you, Rob. Everything was wonderful. Thank you so much for having us on board.
Yeah, I'll make the omelets. Who's making the martinis?
I'll make them.
Let's go.
I'll make them. I'll bring the Belvedere.
Okay. So much fun to be with this.
And then I got to get in touch with Nico because I need to get in better shape. So, Nico, you're hired. Personal.
Hey, hit me up.
Awesome. Thank you guys again so much for joining us. And thank you guys who are watching along for joining us for A Seat at the Table. We'll have news about our next episode of A Seat at the Table coming soon, but also don't forget, most importantly, put October 9th in your schedule for Come Out with Pride Orlando and the National Trans Visibility March. So exciting for things to come. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Wow.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, honey.